For the July commentary, I was able to sit down with Major General Borgen and his wife Mary to talk about the 10th Air Force mission, vision, and priorities, and how the Reserve Citizen Airmen of 10th Air Force fall into those.
General Borgen, you've been in the seat as the 10th Air Force Commander for about 2 months. How is it so far?
Yeah, I got to tell you, Rodney, it's been a whirlwind. We, in a good way. We have been on the road pretty much since day one. Got a chance to head over to AFRC headquarters, meet with the division chiefs and with the new DCOM, and actually with General Scobie as well. So I had a couple of days there, building some relationships and working on some things that are a priority for us. Left there, came back here for a couple of days, and then back on the road for Corona. So strategic level view from our COCOMs and our chief, along with the Air Force and Guard leadership. Very interesting to see some of the strategic problems and challenges and opportunities that we have, and getting to sit and listen to those folks as they go through them. Left from there, and I'm going to talk about this one a little bit more towards the end of our interview today, but I got a chance to go down to Tyndall and visit the 44th and see firsthand the devastation of the hurricane, and also to see them operating out of Eglin. And continuing with the mission. It's just fascinating for me to watch how hard these folks have worked and how much their resiliency is showing through. Left from there and went straight from Eglin to Davis-Monthan to the 924th Group and the 47th Squadron, and they had the distinction of putting me back into the hog, let me fly, and getting me back up to speed there. They did a phenomenal job. And while I was out there, I got to take a look at the 610th CACs and our AATC folks. And we're headed back out there to do some more visits in October with the organizations there. I want to get over and see the 943rd. But as you can see, in a little over 6 weeks, there's been a lot of travel and a lot of learning, but it's absolutely my favorite thing to do. Seeing our young airmen out there doing the mission has just been fascinating. I'm learning something every day so that I can hopefully serve them better as a servant leader.
Ma'am, what are some of your priorities as the First Lady of 10th Air Force?
So out of all of our years in the Air Force, something that's always amazed me is the resiliency of our families and our spouses. I see one of my top priorities is supporting those families at 10th Air Force. And one of the ways that we can do that is through our Key Spouse program. Brian and I are huge advocates of the program. We've seen it work in action. We believe in it, and so I'm excited to get out to units and talk to spouses, command spouses, and see the innovative things they're doing to support that program. Another one of my priorities, I feel, is communication, whether that's information coming down from Mrs. Goldfein, Mrs. Scobie, and just making sure that all of our units are and spouses are aware of what's going on. I feel like that is helpful in doing their daily jobs.
What are your main goals for the Reserve Citizen Airmen of 10th Air Force?
Yeah, so interesting question. We just spent quite a bit of time last week looking at our mission and vision statement and our 3 priorities. And we wanted to shorten them. We wanted something that was repeatable and that we could get to our staff so that they're focused each day on that. It needed to be in line with our national defense strategy. It needed to be in line with what General Scobie's goals are with AFRC and also with the chief. And I think we've met that. So on the mission side of the house, it's to provide mission-ready reserve citizen airmen to fly, fight, and win in every domain. It's very similar to what AFRC as a whole has got as their mission. For our vision, premier provider of lethal power and vigilance in support of U.S. national security. And our priorities, and this is where the sausage is made, is starting first and foremost with caring for our airmen and their families and strengthening their resilience. So if you look at that from a perspective of a citizen airman, and you think about the fact that we've been, particularly in this numbered Air Force, we've been in a war setting for most of all of our members' lives. They've known nothing different. And they have to balance in and out of these conflicts when they're actually producing combat power and training for combat power from their families to their civilian job and then into instantaneous destruction. Everything we do in 10th Air Force centers around tip of the sword, carnivore type activities. Whether it's in space, whether it's in cyber, whether it's in our fighter forces, our rescue forces, our AFSOC forces, we have the most diverse numbered Air Force out there. So to make a statement talking about resiliency and then actually producing through our leadership that resilient attitude takes a lot of work and a lot of thought. And I challenge with this priority, I challenge our squadron commanders, our group commanders, our wing commanders, and myself and the staff to understand and really internalize what our folks are going through day in and day out, and better understand and find innovative ways to give them a break when needed, to change something that we're doing that puts them in a better position to balance everything and make it work. I also challenge us as a force to continue to use the assets that are available and to advertise those assets, whether it's our mental health folks if needed, whether it's our chaplains, whether it's just a fellowship of being together as an organization and working through difficulties that folks may have, and also sharing the victories and challenges and the camaraderie that come along. It's certainly not all in it's not all in an arena of things that are going wrong. In fact, the vast majority of it's going right, but we need to work on that. Our second is to produce ready combat power to meet COCOM requirements. So we just talked about the diversity of this numbered Air Force and how many different sets of tasks that we have in all domains. If we are to continue, everyone has to understand that works in this force, in this numbered Air Force, that if you are still in the military, your job is critical. It absolutely cannot be done without you. And our commanders, all through our ranks, need to encourage our folks to understand that you are not leading your organization solely. You're leading it in conjunction and synergistically with the rest of the folks in your organization. And on a broader perspective, the rest of the forces in our numbered Air Force and the Air Force at large. So it's critical that we understand each other and work together so that we can supply this COCOM requirement that is needed. And it's what we've been doing decade after decade, but it becomes more and more prevalent as we move towards a near peer or peer conflict. So we have to take what we have and we have to hone it down, understand each other, and work together to make this process go through. And our third is to promote and develop professional total force with citizen airman perspective. So think about the last three words there, citizen airman perspective. It's a situation where we have this balance that we discussed. We've got our families, we've got our civilian jobs, we've got at times the mission set that takes more time as we lead up to a conflict, and then it may lessen in terms of being able to concentrate on the other two, but somewhere in there on a consistent basis we have to develop. We have to get our folks the critical knowledge they need, the broadening they need, the bigger picture look for the next level, if you will, and that takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort. I think we're doing it pretty well, but I know that that additional task is a huge burden on a time element when they're balancing the rest of their life. But it has to be done. So I again challenge our commanders to find ways to put folks maybe on a temporary basis. They go away for their schooling so they can concentrate just on that, maybe share some time with their family, which we try to do each year with a certain number of folks. We need to give them the time. Maybe they have to back off some of the other things they're doing within their job while they're in certain educational programs. And we need to use the short courses and programs that are out there that take someone and put them in an element for a couple of weeks learning in a concentrated level that maybe doesn't take a year or a half year long to do. And I'm just touching the surface. I'm not building the mousetrap here. I want our commanders to do that. But we have to stay ahead, particularly in the Air Force, the Air Force Reserve. We're a technology command. We're a technologically based entity, and our young folks are super, super sharp. way sharper than the old guys like me. And you just listen to them talk and see how far ahead they are in terms of how to use technology and how to think innovatively in that realm. It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
Both of you mentioned servant leadership and taking care of our airmen and their families. Why is this so important to you?
Important to me because it's the way every organization should run. Our squadrons are where we make our money in the Air Force. General Goldfein talks about this often, General Scobie talks about this often, I talk about it often, and you know, I consider it a situation where I think my ideas in this arena go back to when I was a squadron commander, and I felt that some of the squadron command issues of driving decisions to a higher level than they needed to be it caused a deficiency in my ability to command as a squadron commander. And we worked through them. I think we have a set of leaders now that push this to the extreme, where, in a good way, where we're trying to put the onus back where the war fighting is done. It's not me coming up with great ideas. It's certainly not the older guys. We're here to use our experience to try to focus on the actual job at hand. It's the squadron commanders and the folks that work for them, both on the enlisted and officer side, that have the innovative ideas. That's what I mean by servant leadership, is that I have no job if we don't have squadrons out there doing this. I am here to make sure the wings can work with their squadrons to make sure that we can get the job done. There's no other way. There's just no other way. We don't sit in this building over here at 10th Air Force as a numbered Air Force and run things. What we do is try to break barriers. We try to get to yes on decisions, on issues that the wing commanders and squadron commanders and group commanders need. I believe in it to my core, and I also think it's the right thing to do. It's certainly not about me. It's not about Mary working with the spouses. We're here to make sure that they can get their job done, or we have no job. It's that simple.
I feel the same way, yes. Just being there to support and just, like Brian said, just so that they can do their job to the best of their ability. Yeah.
General and Mrs. Borgen, thank you for sitting down with me today to talk about your mission, vision, and priorities. It's been a pleasure to learn more about you. Is there anything else you'd like to add in closing?
Told you I'd talk a little bit more about the 44th Fighter Group at Tyndall and now at Eglin. I watched these folks go through, not just our folks, but all the folks at Tyndall go through such a devastating situation with the hurricane. And you can't get a full grasp of it until you drive there and are taken around the base to realize that about 6 buildings are going to be left standing in the end. And then I travel over to Eglin, and I watch at Eglin as we're operating over there, being taken care of very well by the host base, but obviously adding to the burden of that base, and our people just continue to function and get the mission done. I got to spend a day and a half with them. I got to go to their picnic with them. They were doing water survival while I was there. All of the things they would have been doing at Tyndall, they're doing at Eglin in a TDY premise, and their attitudes were phenomenal. Eddie Fritz is a commander out there, Colonel Fritz, and he's just crushing it with the resilient nature with which he's leading these folks. We're trying to give them all the support we can. There's a lot of ambiguities there, but I put that out there because right now, that message of servant leadership is in action. We're all trying to find a solution for the long run to stabilize these folks' lives, and I heard no complaints. I just saw the job getting done, and I want to thank them for that. And I also want to say that if there is the spirit of what our nation's birthday is about and the resiliency of the people throughout history, that's a living example of it every single day at Tyndall and Eglin. So I'm very, very proud of them.
I'm looking forward to, when I can, traveling with Brian to the units and getting to know some of our command spouses and just learning more about the diverse mission of 10th Air Force.
I'm very proud of our entire force. God bless you all. Be safe and fights on.